an old name from an old Six Sigma thing, but the team now that still has this name, we're a bunch of, let's say, experts on specific topics. So we have those for Dynamics 365, and I'm responsible for the Power Platform in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So if you want to connect on LinkedIn and follow all my crazy adventures, feel free to do so. But today I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about Power Automate. And basically what we're trying to do with Power Automate is to fix apps to talk with other apps. Mainly, we're talking about automation with APIs or also without APIs. And this is where we're going to start this conversation around robotic process automation. So when we look at Power Automate, the four pillars that we are very putting a lot of focus on is how can we help organizations accelerate productivity? And that means that it needs to minimize the repetitive tasks of taking the email attachments and putting that into a SharePoint and then do something about it. So we need to be able to automate that very easily. But it also needs to scale. So there's always like lots of super complicated processes that are automated early on in a digital transformation journey in an organization. But there's a long tail of processes that we need to address that would have, if not a more significant impact on automation with those organizations. Then artificial intelligence is the name of the game. Humans are very good at making tough decisions, analyzing documents, but there's some of those intelligent humans that waste their IQ on just copying data from one file to a system. So we can automate that with automation, but then let the human solve much bigger problems. But that would not work if we cannot automate and integrate everything securely. And this is where the kind of approach that we take at Microsoft with hyper automation, or we often use the word hyperscaler to talk about those who have web services, business applications, automation, all in the same house. It makes security and governance much easier, having identity pervasive from your app to your workflow to your database without the data moving in 3 different providers in different countries. So having all of that in the same cloud with Microsoft allows you to scale easier, govern, but also keep it more secure. And Power Automate is part of the Power Platform family. And the fundamentals of the Power Platform are important here. Citizen development is at the core of what we do. We always look at ways that we can empower anybody in the organization to be part of the digital transformation journey. They can come up with simple ideas to solve their own business needs, but also they can be a part of a much broader initiative across the organization to facilitate this digital transformation. But that doesn't mean that we don't like pro developers. In fact, there are so many complex processes where we need to think of a microservices across your organization to make all data available through new apps. This is still super relevant for pro developers to surface that data so citizen developer can build automation around it. And then, just like we said earlier about security and governance, we cannot do that without having tools for IT to better manage security, identity management, licenses. So everything with the Power Platform, that is apps, automation, robotic process automation, and database, are managed in a single location. Licensing is more simple like that. And also identity management and services allocation is much easier. So now, there's today over 350,000 organizations using Power Automate. Think of that, 350,000 businesses relying on Power Automate every month to automate things, some small and some big. So it just shows you the scale of the operation and the amount of people that are interacting and creating new workflows every day. We're talking about over 4 billion API calls every day. So having that as a cloud service makes that infrastructure much more scalable and reliable than trying to automate everything internally with bots in your own server rooms or running on your machine. So the cloud is really the backbone to automation, and that's what we're betting on. And some of the success stories when we look at Ingram Micro, they say that 75% of all the automation projects they make with Power Automate are delivered within 30 days. Automation is tough, it's complicated. You need to think about integration with other systems, repeating tasks, connecting to different people. If you can do that within 30 days on key automation processes, this is a huge deal. So we talked about the Power Platform and the suite of product, and I think Marco already alluded to that, has 4 key products that you can buy or you can use for free in certain licenses you have with Office or Dynamics or others. So Power BI allows you to look at your data and create dashboards, connect to multitude of data sources in your organization. So think of it as Excel pivot charts on steroids that works with so many other things in your organization. Then we have Power Apps that allows you to create mobile apps for your employees in the field, back office users, or even create websites so your customer can be part of your process for customer service or new suppliers wanting to be part of your organization. And then we have Power Automate that can automate things from API, robotic process automation, business process management, and we'll delve a little more into that. And then we have Power Virtual Agent that you just saw, that Marco showed you, that can do so many things from Q&A bots to transactional bots. And all of that is built on a platform where we have over 400 connectors, AI, and the common data service, which is now called the Dataverse, that allows all of those things to work together. And in the world of automation, this is rare. We don't see that interaction of, I have a process, I need to bring a human in the loop, so I need to keep the information structured and secured and identity being pervasive, and then I need to move that with files and have AI. All of that complex thing today with automation that people do with companies like UiPath that are very good at RPA, but only pretty much do that, or companies like Nintex are very good on forms over data and simple processes. But trying to combine that together has always been a huge challenge. And this is what we're trying to do with the Power Platform. And so let's dig a little deeper in our automation story. So when you're talking about low code, the way that you approach any large project is a little different than what you usually do. You don't start with the app. You always start with your data and services layer. And that layer is important because this is where you have your productivity suite data. Either you use Google Cloud or Microsoft 365. This is where you have all your calendar information. This is where you have all your email. But think of it from an automation perspective. If you only do RPA, you only see the information in your inbox. But with connectors, you have all the metadata as well, so that you can make that information flow much better with your other system. For example, if you have core systems in your organization, your CRM, your ERP, we have native connectors to those. Microsoft, of course, we have Dynamics 365 and finance and operation and CRM, but also connectors to SAP, to Salesforce, to Zendesk, to ServiceNow. So all of those apps that you have, instead of trying to connect with robotic process automation, you have this strong connectors that you can work with. And sometimes you'll have to store data in an Azure Blob Storage, in the AWS Redshift. We have those connectors as well. So it makes your journey so much better. You don't have to spend weeks trying to develop an interface or an ETL or an RPA to move data. You can connect with out-of-the-box connectors that are there for you. But sometimes you'll need a new database. I was talking with a bank yesterday, and they did a very fancy reconciliation process between the loans they make and when they go into collection agencies. The collection agencies, they will have a CSV file, and they'll start calling. But when they report who actually paid, they send PDFs. And this is horrible. So then they have to take the PDF and try to do a reconciliation with the core banking system. This is horrible. So instead of having to work with multiple Excel spreadsheets, what we did is we used the Dataverse to combine all of that into tables that can work together with all the other systems. And those tables, you saw the Dataverse for Teams. Well, the full Dataverse is not much more complicated than that. If you can do a SharePoint list or a Microsoft list, you can do very complex relational databases using the Dataverse, and then get rid of all those Excel spreadsheets with macros that live on some people's PC. And then you're afraid that the day they win the lottery, they go away, and then you lose all the knowledge on how to manage those macros. So then you have everything that you can connect to legacy systems. So we have on-premises data gateway. You don't have to move all your data to the cloud. We want to use the data you already have to make that shortcut towards making it available. So all your master data management, to give your parts numbers across different processes in the organization, you don't have to move those to the cloud. We can connect to those. And if it's read-only, well, you're fine. You're not at risk of creating confusion there. And it's the same thing. And when we look at the different connectors that we have over 400 connectors out of the box that allows you to automate automatically without using complex automation out of the box. And we have things like SAP, Box, Salesforce, and Marketo for your marketing campaigns. There's a ton of them. But this is only the data layer, and I'm already super excited. But let's talk about automation for a second. This is where we have all the capabilities of an hyper automation or intelligent automation. They're exactly the same thing. What is this? Is that how many features of automation can we bring together to make my project works? Robotic process automation is very popular. So it will emulate your users clicking and dragging and typing with their computers and take that information out. So it's great when you have a system that don't have an API, or also when complex manipulation of such data might be required. But if you do everything with RPA, you're shooting yourself in the foot because it's costly. You have to install those things on virtual machines, take computing. It only has a version of the truth that relies on your screen. But this is where API automation is a super great complement to that. And having that in the same company, you can mix and match in the same process, RPA to write stuff in your ERP, but APIs to receive stuff from your email or for a PDF or something. And with artificial intelligence, it is important. And we see artificial intelligence in the context of automation today, pretty much only doing invoice processing. And everybody likes that. But there are very few companies who do it well. And there's even less companies that have it integrated in their product. Most of them rely on OCR, third-party providers like IB Forms that have data centers that live outside of your automation, to which you need a subscription and your data goes in and out your data center. You don't want that. We have first-class citizen development AI that not only do documents processing, we do sentiment analysis, we do image detection, prediction. So that is an important part of what you're going to do in intelligent automation or hyper automation. But there's a whole bunch of other capabilities that you need to bring into those processes, like approvals. We saw Anna talking a lot about approvals this morning. A lot of our clients with Nintex, they love approvals in SharePoint. But how can we make approvals more agile with an app to approve in your email inline without having to open a different system to do the approval? And finally, we have this business process management capability where you want to have, let's say, a macro processes with multiple stages where different things happen. Some of them are apps, some of them will trigger workflows or RPA. So you need that backbone for that. And this is exactly where Power Automate lives. And then once you're pretty good with your data and your processes, building user experiences becomes so easy because all the rules and security are already inherent to the entire process. So you don't need to build a mobile app and put very complex security features in it at the UI layer. You can only connect that to your process or to your data, and all those rules and role-based access control are already inherent to the app. And then same thing when you build custom app for your desktop operation and even for web portals that you share externally with your client. And that low-code revolution that we bring allows you to bring intelligent or new forms of UX like chatbots. So you can put a chatbot in an app, put your chatbot in Teams, put your chatbot on your portal, and also mixed reality experience in app. Until today, you needed video game developers to build an app to have a visual space of your new fridge you put in your store. and I think video game developers rather work with rare software or with electronic arts than work for Coca-Cola. So mixed reality has always been complex, but now you can do mixed reality directly in Power Apps without a single line of code. This is awesome. And then you have those BI, bring everything to Teams, bring everything to your Dynamics 365 natively. We have those experiences that connect to one another. So this full stack goes much further beyond automation because automation does not always run on a virtual machine and does the same thing every day. You need to bring data from different sources. You need to have people connect to your process to do approvals, augment the information. And trying to build that with multiple vendors is super hard. And this is where projects takes time. So how some of our clients use Power Automate to improve their lives. True Green, if you're in America, is let's call it Green Lawn as a Service, or it's going to be GLAS. So what they do is that you put some lawn on, but you pay those guys to make sure it looks always good. They come mow the lawn. They could put some products to make it grow well, and then maybe one day you come from work, and then there's a brown patch in there, and you're like, oh, it's 7 p.m. I cannot call anybody. It's probably closed. So what those clients can do now is they go on the True Green website. There's a chatbot there for them, and they can just put the request, hey, here's a picture of my lawn. I have a problem, brown patches. And they can do that through Power Virtual Agents. And then Power Virtual Agents can connect that to their lawn care professional system that doesn't have an API. It uses all the conversation from the chatbot and move that using robotic process automation into their customer management system to send a professional to book an appointment. They can give the appointment confirmation through the chat without having to wait for the office to be open or send an email and wait 24 hours before it's done. You will be having access to this presentation. Whenever you see a customer reference and a blue thing here, you can click on it and you'll have a video or the full customer story about that client specifically. So you'll have the link at the end of the presentation. So now, we talked a lot about automation and the Power Platform. Let's talk at the different components of Power Automate that enables that at the middle layer, at the automation layer. So something that is very new is Process Advisor. Actually, we just announced it about a month and a half ago. And Process Advisor covers the need for what we call process mining or task mining. Remember earlier in the conversation, I told you that many big complex processes are already automated because these are the obvious ones that IT and maybe the financial, the CFO looks at, hey, we waste so much time doing this, let's automate that. But these are the tip of the iceberg that is there. But how can you get to all these things that are below the water and automate those? Well, you can hire a bunch of consulting companies like the KPMGs, EY, they're going to be happy to go there, but it's going to cost you $1 million. And the low-hanging fruit that are like quick and easy to fix and not too expensive will never be on your radar. So with process mining or task mining, we call this feature Process Advisor at Microsoft Power Automate. It allows any user in the organization to think of, hey, I'm doing this copy paste of different Excel spreadsheets for my financial report at the end of the month. This is stupid. Maybe I could do something about it. But even if that person might not have the skills to do this complex automation, she can already like record the different steps that she's taken, and then it's going to fall in the bucket. And then your center of excellence of automation will have a backlog of things that you can automate and start working on if they're too complex for automating itself. So this is very important, and that's going to open the door to more automation in your organization, because the tip of the iceberg, many organizations like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism already have done those. But everything that is under the water has much more value in digital transformation and automation capabilities. And then, what are the features of automation that we have for the last few months to few years? Desktop flows. This is our robotic process automation that allows you to automate tasks by simulating the human interaction through mouse and clicks. You can run on your PC while you watch it, or you can delegate that workload on a virtual machine, and it's going to perform on its own on different triggers, event-based or schedule-based. It's your choice. And the fact that it is connected to our cloud APIs called Cloud Flows, you can use any trigger in the cloud to make your robotic process automation launch and do something. And because it's part of the same product and all the triggers are in the cloud, you can have much more sophisticated automation scenarios that other vendors cannot do. So once you have a good RPA and a good API story, AI becomes important. At Microsoft, we call this AI Builder. So what AI Builder is at the core is many of the services you already have in the Azure cloud, but we just package them in a way that it requires no code and no technical skills to do AI. Like I said, you can scan documents, you can scan images and make predictions. All of that within your Power Automate or your Power Apps stack. And finally, we have business process flows that allows you to orchestrate all of those different steps of the processes. So from a feature capabilities in hyper automation, this is a very good starter set. In fact, we're the only one on the market to have this breadth and depth of capabilities around automation with a single vendor. And some of them are very good. Our RPA capabilities that we brought with the acquisition of Win Automation is on par with the Blue Prism Automation Anywhere and UiPath. The flows that we have, the connector story that we have, is much more comprehensive than what you can do with Zapier, for example, in terms of breadth and scale and security. AI, there's not a lot of AI vendor that does what we do with OCR. They will do OCR very well. We're pretty good as well, but we go much beyond OCR. And business process management, we make it so much easier to build processes, although they might be a little more limited in capabilities than what you can do with a Pega system, but it's very damn close of what you can do with a Nintex. But even if you don't always have the best of breed, the fact that they're all together and work well in licensing and user training, this is what we're after here. And here's a few example of what you can do with the Business Process Advisor. I'm going to show you a few demos in the next minutes. And then same thing with RPA. Doing attended and unattended is important because, like I said, there are certain workloads that you're going to do attended in front of you that you watch it run, but some of the workloads that you're going to delegate to a virtual machine. And API. So today we have over 400 connectors to Microsoft and non-Microsoft solution. You have hundreds of triggers that you can already use in your API backlog. There's thousands of actions that you can insert in any of those triggers, and there's pre-built templates. And the pre-built templates allow you to automate very simple stuff in one click, like, hey, take all my attachment when I receive an email and put that into that SharePoint list or that SharePoint documents folder. And then AI Builder, again, we go much beyond what typical OCR vendor will do. We cover documents, natural language, images, and decision. And then business process flow, where you can have a very visual authoring capability of your processes. And I think somebody is under the rain right now. I hope you're okay. Thank you. Or at least not in your toilet. Now, I talked a lot with the different components. Let's see how we can combine all of that together with your Office 365 portals. And sorry, do we have a question here? If you don't have a question, please put yourself on mute. That would be great for the rest of the audience. Thank you. So now, let's switch to my PC and look at how we can build certain things without a single line of code. So the first thing I want to do here is, you're probably aware of your Office portal, right? You have all your email, your documents, and when I look at the documents here that I want to work with, they often come by email. So I'm going to take the example I told you about the bank I was working with yesterday. So their collection agency, they send them PDF every week. And this is a pain in the butt if you want to automate it, because it's email, it's a PDF, it's not an API. And you know what? Maybe you don't feel you have the skills to do that. So here's what you can do with that. You can go to Power Automate. And in Power Automate, you have everything you need to create new flows, use templates, connectors. You can also model your data in the Common Data Service directly from there. And also you have your monitor. And I see here that I have the Process Advisor. This is what we're going to look at for a few seconds. All right. So in Process Advisor, I can create a new request to automate something, or I can look at those that already exist. And if I want to create a new one, it's fairly simple. You just launch the creator, and it's going to use the same step recorders that we use for robotic process automation. So we just use the same technology that works on your PC that would document every step. And I can create a new process from here. I can call it collection document transfer. because maybe I'm only responsible for one part of the process. So let's just automate the first part. And maybe somebody else in another department will take those information and manually enter it in their own system. So let's go by create here. And I can start by adding a recording. So the recording will launch the robot Power Automate desktop recorder that you can launch directly from here. Let me just try to open it. And what it will do is just simply open again, or I technically have the app for that. Let's just make sure that we can install it correctly. There you go. I guess I didn't reinstall the app on this PC recently. But what it does, it's a simple screen recorder that will allow you to record screenshots and clicks, and it will organize everything so the next person can actually look at it. I already did this step on my computer back there. So here I have the first one, who is the collection report step. That's the one I did about, 2 hours ago while Anna was talking. And the way you will look at it once you're working with your process is that you can see all the different person in your center of excellence that will read into those processes and work on it if I want to send it to accounting or something. But also I can look at my recording and look back at all the steps that I've taken, and I only documented a few here. And then I have the screenshot of where I clicked. So the person that's going to take that process in the back end in my COE or my partner that I pay for will have access to all that information and all the actions that I took, you see that are well documented here, and start to think at building a process. And if that person has processes coming from different departments, maybe they will understand that, hey, it's part of the same global process. Maybe I can automate the whole chain of value there. And this is what process mining with Process Advisor allows you to do. Currently, this is a preview feature. We don't have like the full set of first party, very expensive solution like the Celonis of this world. But this is something that we're going to get there very soon. But the fact that it is embedded in the same bucket as the rest of your automation, it makes things so much easier. So now, let's say that I'm completed my process. And let's step back and assume that I'm going to be the person responsible to use artificial intelligence and take those documents that I've just received and manipulated and create artificial intelligence to extract the data from that PDF file and transfer that into my database, and then have another layer of automation to do that. So returning to our PC, you can see here on the left, I can have access to AI Builder. Okay, so this is what we're going to focus on for the next few minutes. I can build models. I can look at my models, and something that we just released, there's the document automation, where we not only it allows you to import documents, but there's a more logic on the way you want to orchestrate those. It is a starter kit, so it is an accelerator that we make available for you. And these are actually my friends in Paris in our product group that built that solution. So it's not what we're going to look at right now, but what I want to look at is building a new model, starting from scratch, just to show you how easy it is to do artificial intelligence, building a model, training a model, but also making it work with the rest of the stuff in my organization. So the thing I want to do now is select the right model for me, right? So I have here category classification and entity extraction. Those two are mostly to understand the intention of a person. What do you want to do? Is this a case, or are you talking about a city, or are you talking about one of our products? So you can build a suite of different words that will have different meanings, and then automate action based on natural language instead of having to type exactly what you want it to do. But these are not those we need right now. We will come back to the forms processing. This is the one that interests us. But you also have object detection and prediction right from here. So you can take a picture of anything. Let's say you have a part that you need to replace, but the barcode is off, and you just by the picture, you can actually point your phone at it. It's going to tell you, oh, this is the part for this, that. And then you can order that part to be replacing the one that's broken on your bus or your car or your machinery. All right. And prediction will give you a capability to say, oh, will this client likely to be late on this payment, or will that employee is likely to churn? So you can have different prediction based on data in your Dataverse to do that. And these are custom models that you can build and customize to your needs. But we also have lots of stuff that is already there. You can scan business card and extract information automatically. You can also do some invoices processing. We can also do language detection, text recognition. And there's a new one coming soon that will be around ID cards. So if you're a bank or you're a transport authority and you need to validate a passport or driver's license for somebody, you will be able to take your phone and just look at the passport, and you'll be able to extract all the information from the passport or the driver's license without having to train a model. So if you want to put that on a portal or in an app or at any point in the automation system, you'll be able to do that soon as well. So now I talked about I want to use forms processing. So let's start with that. So let's call it new collection payments. Okay. And you see here, it only requires you to have 5 documents. So you can start with a very small set of information. And in artificial intelligence, this is hard because I'd say the rule of thumb is the more data you have to train a model, the more accurate your model is. And in the past and with other vendors, you always have to have like hundreds of files in order to make it work. But with forms processing, about 5 documents is only what you need to start. Of course, the more you have, the better. But if you only have like a subset of it, you can absolutely start today without waiting for more content. So let's create our model. So in the background, it creates that model, so it will be available in different system later. And the first thing you want to do, if we go back to our email that we have, you see here that the document, I have the name of the collection agency, I have the report number, and I have like a bunch of columns. This will be a table, just like a table in Excel or in any database. It is structured data. This one is a little less structured. So the way you deal with that with Power Automate is that you start with the fields. So the fields will be just those things at the top here. So I'm going to have a few fields. So just to help the system know what to look for, I'm going to call it collection agency. I think we have somebody who can put himself on mute, please, just to make the experience more agreeable for the rest of the people. And then, so I have the collection agency, and then I'll also have the report number. So with that, I have the 2 fields that I need to have basic information when I'm going to create something else. I know which collection agency it is and which version of the report they sent me. But now I need to connect all the information in that table. So I'm just going to come here and look at tables. I'm going to create a table here because you can have multiple tables in an invoice, in a long, very invoice or purchase order. But this one, we're just going to have one table. So do we have a question? All right. So the table here, we're going to call it payments and clients. Okay. And now that table, we need to enter some of the columns, and it's pretty easy. I have a number of those information here. I know I'm going to need a collection date, the customer name, the total due, the amount collected, and the loan ID. So this is just what I'm going to create here. So I've got collection date right here. Then we have the customer name. Customer name. All right. Then I have the amount owed. We're going to have the amount collected. And I'm going to need to know to which loan to connect that payment. So I'm just going to add loan ID. Here we go. And plus. So now I created my table. I'm going to be able to look at my documents and start training the different zones where my automation will look for that specific information. So here I can create a new collection. And this is interesting because if I have multiple collection agencies, and sorry for the pun here, it's different things, but a collection will say, hey, let's say that collection agency A sends me a model of a PDF, but collection agency B has a completely different model. You don't want to train 2 different models because then you have a list of so many things you have to look for in order to make automation with it. But by using one model, but multiple collection, it allows you to cover for those different formats that you will receive in your PDF or JPEG or whatever. But we only need one collection here. And I'm going to add documents. You can connect to SharePoint and Azure Blob Storage. Right now, I'm only going to use what I have on my PC. And I'm going to use those 5 invoices, not invoices, but whoop, this is not the right place. The collection agency report that I need to open. And like I said, I only need about 5 of them. They will be uploaded. And once they are uploaded, I'm going to be able to start tagging those documents by analyzing it. So at the bottom here, I'm going to click Analyze. So right now what it's doing, it's looking at all the documents. It uses optical character recognition, or OCR, to look at where stuff is written. And in this example, the documents is all typed information, but it would also work if you have written with pen on a purchase order or a receipt. Assuming that you don't have to scan a doctor's signature, everything else is pretty much fair game. But it works pretty well. So it's going to take about a minute so the document can be analyzed. And you can do that with the same way with pictures. So pictures will require probably around 20 to 50 images. If you want to do with phrases and everything, it's a little more easy, but it's always no code, always click and drag. Our model is finishing the analysis, so let's go back to the demo and look at how we can scan the information. So you see here, it imported my 5 documents. So in the corner here, I can scroll from different documents, and I need to tag the 5 documents for it to work. And in the tag area, I can see here, it already has different words. So these are the fields that we need. So by the Contoso collection agency here, I'm just going to write collection. And the report number, I can focus only on the last part. I'm just going to call it the report number. Now, I have my table. So you see here all the fields that we've already created. I just need to map them to my table here. So what I can do is I can start to tag right away. But if I'm not sure if the table or the data is structured fine, I can always use the preview the data. So then you see, oh, okay, that looks like the separation and everything between the data is fine. So it has interpreted the written data correctly. So all I need to do now is to tag the table. I only have one table in here, but if I had multiple tables, I would select the table that is relevant to it. And now, by clicking on the column, I can choose here, oh, that's the date. And then I click on here, that's the customer name, that's the amount owed, that is the amount collected, and that is the loan ID. So as simple as this. I just need to do that 4 more times with the different documents here, so it has a more reliable source here. So let's do this one. Report number. We're going to tag the table. I'm going to go date, customer name, amount owed, amount collected, and loan ID. And we do the same thing with the next one. That is as cumbersome as it gets. That's the boring part. So I'm sorry, I'm going to try to go very quick with this one. Report number. Then we're going to tag our table. Date, customer name, amount owed, amount collected, and loan ID. Just bear with me for a few more minutes. We're almost done. Whoop, I selected too big. Collection, report number, tag. Have you ever considered that doing artificial intelligence would be so easy, but also kind of boring? I mean, everybody is like excited, oh, AI is the next big thing. But yeah, doing tagging of images and documents, it's not as sexy as some of the other stuff people do in IT. But at least it's easy enough that anybody in your organization can actually do it. So we got date, we got customer name, amount owed, amount collected, and loan ID. See, I'm done. So now I can go at the bottom, click next, and now it's going to analyze the data in the background. This is what we call training. So training is important. This is where the algorithm try to assemble all things together. So the next time I upload a document, it will actually have some good performance over it. It usually takes maybe 10 minutes. It might be shorter, but just to save you the time, I already have a train model here that we're going to be using. So that train model is the first one. I just call it the collection report. All right, so we have this one that is training right now, but we're interested in the one that is already trained. And when you look at the model, once it's trained, you can see here what how it was trained. You can look at all the different things. You have all the selected fields and the select table, and you can connect that to other services like Power Apps and Power Automate. But we're just going to do a quick test. So you can upload a document from your PC and just look at the kind of information that will be returned when you do it. So now it's looking at the data, it's applying its OCR and artificial intelligence capabilities, and then it's going to give me a confidence score of all the different elements that it read on the sheet. So then I can use with trust or retrain my model, have more documents if I need to. So if I look here, you see collection agency, this is the information that it read. I think it's good. And you know, it's 100% sure of itself. If it was lower than that, let's say 20%, 50%, or 60%, maybe you will want to have more documents in your test system, so you're better with that. But 100%, I think it's hard to beat. Same thing here. This is very well documented stuff. It's on a white background, but sometimes your confidence score will get a little lower if some black is written on dark gray, if it is at an angle, or especially when you have handwritten notes, the confidence score might change from one another. But this is a very standard form that you'll see for a purchase order, an invoice, or receipt. So the confidence is pretty high on this one. So I'm good. So let's just forget that for a second. And now it's time to orchestrate my invoice process. So what I'm going to do here, not invoices, but collection agencies. I want that every time I'm going to receive an email, that my document, my PDF document, is extracted from my inbox, analyzed, move from unstructured data to structured data, input that data into a database, and then we're going to have another RPA that will write that data back in my core banking system. So this is the suite of the reconciliation that happens with that. You could add much more steps, but this is kind of the basic stuff that we can show in a few minutes. And then I hope that you'll be experimenting much more with that later. I think we still have some people who are not on mute. If you don't have a question, please put yourself on mute. If you have a question, don't hesitate to interrupt me. I'm here for you. All right. So back to our demo. Here, I'm going to go to my flows. Right. Very simple. And in those flows, I have all those capabilities we talked about. We have API automation, robotic process automation, business process management. We have all of those things at the tip of a finger or at the tip of my mouse cursor. What I want to do now, I want to start with a cloud flow. So this is API automation. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to use the automated cloud flow. And I'm going to call it extract collection from email. And now, because like I said, we have all those triggers and those actions, everything you can do is already here. So I'm just going to use email. And then I can have different triggers when an email is flagged, when an email arrives. I'm just going to use an email as flagged. Let's pretend that this mailbox is a dedicated mailbox for all the collection agencies. But because it's API, if I want to use the metadata, it has a flag, it has a word that mentioned collection or all of those things, I can actually use API to extract that at a much faster rate than I would with robotic process automation. This is not where RPA is good. This is where API is much better. So then when I create that, I'm going to have the first thing. It knows who I am. I didn't have to select a mailbox because it's connected with Office 365. We have this single sign-on identity. It already knows what I have access to in the organization, what I don't have access to, and how my work is organized around the Office 365 services. So when I come here, I could select different inboxes. So if I have different rules that operate in my inbox, I can use that. But let's just use the inbox here for now. And let's use now a next step. And I'm going to bring my AI builder friend. And when I scroll in the list, the only thing I need to find is process documents. So I'm going to find here process information from a form. This is the model we want. But again, it could have been process the information in the email. Make sure that if it's a happy client, it goes in one way. If it's not a happy client, go into another way. You can use all of those triggers right without a single line of code. So let's use the process and save information from forms. And now I just need to select the model that I've trained for that. So it's cool because of the collections. The collection report has all the different vendors that we use for collection agencies. I don't have to have multiple models. And then the form type, these ones are usually coming from a PDF file. And then the form I want to look at is the attachment in the email. So now I have AI, that's great, but I need to make that AI structure that information so I can input it in my database. And my database here is the Common Data Service or Dataverse. And here I can select this, an action that is create a new row. So it means that for each line that I have in my table, create information with structure and map all those fields together. And we're going to look at that right now. So I'm going to select create a new row. And then I can choose which table in my system I want to associate that action to. I'm going to look for payments. This is the table that I have here. Payments. All right. And it knows that I can search for payments because I'm in all the same environments. So very simple to do. And here, I just need to look at the different fields that I have in my database. All right. So this is all the information on the left of the different rows of the different columns of my table. And here I can use dynamic content to fill it. So I can use the customer value. There's lots of information because you see here I can use, let's say, the confidence score. If your data is not well recognized enough and the confidence score is below a certain threshold, you could send that information to another queue so another person can look at it and reprocess it to make sure that you reduce the amount of error. This is where the human in the loop or the error handling capabilities are important when you're talking about hyper automation. Because the first thing you want to avoid is that I automate a bunch of things and then it's so bad for whatever reason because I didn't train my model properly, it just breaks the whole workflow and there's thousands of documents to look for at every day. But by adjusting the error handling on your RPA or earlier in the queue with that approach by using the confidence score to send information in different places, it saves you tons of time and it augments your scalability capabilities. So here what I want to use would be the value of the customer. And you see it's already filling all the information. And then I just need to look at the other information that is important. So I'm going to use collection agency value, the loan ID. Again, I'm using the value in this case and the paid amount. So I'm just going to search for amount. There you go. This is what is important for me right now. Okay, I could go much further than that, but I'm going to stay here for now because it's a very short demo. So now that I've done that, I have all those things that's going to be written in my database each time I receive an email from that vendor. And then I can add more steps because it is hyper automation. I can say, you know what? Once you have that information, I want you to use robotic process automation because we maybe delegate the core system or the core banking system on a bunch of VMs that run with AS400, those green screen that looks like the Matrix. They still exist in airlines and banking because these are so much importance in terms of system. They can just afford, they cannot afford to shut them down or to migrate them. So this is where RPA at scale often happen a lot. So I can invoke any workflow I have on a different machine. So I have a workflow here on my on-premise data gateway that is on my Surface. But if it's one of the VMs that handles the banking, I can send the information. And remember, because the information is already structured here, it will be able to be reused into that RPA process as well. If I don't want to do RPA, maybe I want to send information to teams, I can do the same thing. I can say add a step, and then I can select for teams, and I can create a new channel or send information to a channel. So this is how you can easily trigger hyper automation from a simple flow that you can build. And like Anna mentioned, if you have much more sophistication in your processes than what we just saw, you can have parent flows, child flows, and it gives you more ins and out, and it simplifies your governance and augments your performance as well. But if you are coming from RPA world, this looks fun, but here's the kicker. Robotic process automation has different ways to handle different tasks. You can put them sequentially, so it means that it needs to complete a certain task before starting with the other. Or it has to run concurrently, where you can have multiple bots and VMs dedicated to handle the flow. And this is where RPA costs a ton of money, because that high output capability with more VM and more bots costs a lot in terms of infrastructure, takes a lot of power in your data center. So it's not necessarily the greenest way to do it. But the cool thing, if you're smart, you're going to come here and then you can have unlimited concurrency almost. You can have 50 instances of the same thing happening in real time. You didn't have to create a new VM. You didn't have to pay an extra license. You didn't have to put more power in your infrastructure. All of this can be done. So this is where API automation, when used well, is much better performant than RPA. But you do need RPA when you have to interact with systems that don't have APIs, or where you need manipulation of data before moving to other things. So this is a very small summary on how you can bring that together, but there's so many other ways that you can facilitate automation with that. You can think of an RFP. I think many of us are from our partner ecosystem. You probably had to deal with client RFP a few times. It's hard because then you have to take information from email, send the Excel spreadsheets to a bunch of people. Sometimes I've worked on RFPs with over 1,000 requirements. So what we built with my colleague, Mikhail Ruck, and if you don't know him, he's a wizard. We built a process where we use AI Builder to extract all the information from the spreadsheet, put that into a database, and then we look at each requirement and we automatically map that with the basic answer we already have in the knowledge base from all the other RFPs that we responded to. And then we create a Teams channel where we can collaborate all together with the marketing team to talk about the customer references and whatnot, and the financial team to build the commercials, and the technical expert like me and Mikhail. So we can all work on the same document in team around the same database, because we use AI Builder and a business process flow to orchestrate all of that. And then once we're done, we just click complete. It updates our CRM, and it creates already all the documents that we need to send to the client. So we're testing it right now at Microsoft. I hope we're going to be able to scale that to more users, because think of the amount of time that we can save if we do it right. So then, who can automate in your organization? You heard me talk about citizen developers a lot, and also more complex enterprise automation. This is where we can serve both worlds. Because if you look at instant automation, you do have those templates you can start from. Say, take my documents in my inbox and move that to SharePoint or OneDrive or Box and Dropbox. We do support that as well. So you have all of those instant automation templates to start from. But when you want to do true enterprise grade automation, this is where you'll need to start at finding where the processes are. So we have Process Advisor for that. And then start to analyze that with your center of excellence, which is maybe a different group of people. And then you'll have to build something, which might be another group of people. And then you have to deploy it. And this is where the application lifecycle management capabilities of the Power Platform using solutions will help you scale, update, iterate. So this is a very comprehensive suite of capabilities that goes much beyond the features. You have to look at the lifecycle of your automation, and can it scale to your organization? So we talk about different security principles that are core at what we do with automation. So you need to be compliant, and especially if it's in the cloud. We're a cloud-first company. We have the broadest geographical coverage for everything with all the certification in each country. So data residency, if it's an issue, as a cloud provider, we can support probably 95% of all our clients in the planet on that. Identity management in the world of automation cannot be understated. And if I have RPA experts here, they know what I'm talking about. It is hard. And this is why by having Active Directory at the core of everything we do with role-based access control, with Azure information protection, data loss prevention policies, all of those things will make your solution much more secure. And then we got those enterprise-grade governance with DLPs and cloud-based and on-premises data. So when we connect to on-premises data sources, we use what we call the on-premises data gateway. Still uses your identity to know, do you have access to this thing or not? Again, it saves tons of time when all of those components are pre-built for you and you just need to build your automation around it and not recreate the wheel every single time you want to automate something. So we have clients like Coca-Cola who had, when they released their new products, they need to orchestrate better their distribution. Again, it's one of those links that you can click. What we see with our clients is that when they do automation with us, either through API, RPA, or AI, the rest of the investment that they made in their technological stack is amazing. They can save so much time automating things around Teams or Office with SharePoint or with Azure and Dynamics. We have so many out-of-the-box capabilities around automation for those systems that they generate much more value quicker. And when you look at the competitive landscape, there's so many benefits at having a single vendor approach, even if sometimes we don't have the same capability as other. In most time we do, by the way. But you can simplify your governance, your security, it costs less. Your build costs are actually divided by 10 when you have this kind of approaches. You can learn a lot more about Power Automate if you connect to any of those community. We have tons of experts, Microsoft Docs, certifications that you can pass. So then when you work with a client or you want to have this promotion that you've been waiting for, certification is a very good place to start. And like I promised, you can download this presentation right now. You just have to scan this QR code and you'll have access to everything. And I think we have a few minutes for questions. So please come off mute or I'm going to try. I just have my phone here. So maybe if you can read the questions for me, it would be much appreciated.
Thank you, Kim. Wow. Okay. I really love your setup there. That's really, really slick. Really loved, enjoyed the presentation thoroughly, and I'm sure we all want a bit more. We feel like we feel like we're being entertained here. So, so looking at the questions, I know there's so now's a good time to raise your hand, guys. I'm checking the chat to see we've got 2 minutes for questions and answers remaining. So let's take a look at the questions and answers and let's read them out so that Kim can address them. So let's see what we have here. So right now, lots of people joining still.
I have a few questions here on my phone. Cindy asks if we need additional licenses for Process Advisor. Not right now. Right now, it is a preview feature. It is included with your Power Automate premium licenses, so your Office licenses might not qualify, but it is included right now in the Power Automate licenses. I have other question here for Kendi, Marcel. Can we use different mailing services than Outlook when automating Power Automate? Absolutely. There's many connectors to Gmail, for example. You can use that. But everything that requires a connector that is not in our 400 sets, you have the capability to build what we call a custom connector. So everything that has HTTP webhooks, REST APIs, you can wrap your JSON or your XAML into this wrapper that we call the custom connector, with all the right credentials and everything, and connect to your service with no problem. Can we use different automation? Amazing, multiple. Is multiple invoicing processing possible? Yes, it's recent. It's an update that we just released about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I really want you to go try it and send me the feedback if it works well for you. Multiple tables in the same invoice. I really want to hear your feedback about that. Unknown users, sorry. I wish you said your name, but I only have unknown here. To Justin, will this feature have some sort of event log for ERP, etc.? Again, You can, for the process mining part right now, it's very much of a screen recorder. We don't have lots of event, but we're working on this process advisor thing to meet those requirements. And you're absolutely right to point out, this is oftentimes an ERP intensive, let's just say that ERP processes are fertile ground for process mining. We're coming with some of that as well. Is it included in developer licenses for learning purposes? Well, most of the features in the Power Platform are part of what we call the community plans. So you can subscribe to one of those plans, and your existing tenant, you can have an environment and most of the products that are available. The only limitation with community plans is that you're limited to one user. You cannot have more people in your thing. But there's tons of other plans that you can use. The trials are there as well. Super cool to test things. I encourage you to look for that as well. I think we're good on time. You have my LinkedIn contact information. Feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to help you get success with Power Automate with your clients. Thank you.
Thank you once again. That was Kim Dupuis, should I say?
We say Dupuis.
Dupuis. Okay, well, it was a great pleasure hosting you here today, Kim. I love the cap, a limited edition Power Automate. I think that's one of its kind.
I have a bias towards black caps. So if you look at all my pictures online, but our legal department really wanted me to have one that doesn't have like a baseball logo on it. So they made one specially for me.
That's awesome. And thank you once again, Kim. That was really, really insightful and very exciting.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Right. So that was Kim Dupuis. Okay. So now that we're all energized, over to the next session. So do we have Lisa online?
Yes, I'm here. And I'm also joined by Fabian, my colleague. Hi, Rex, and hi, everyone.
So Lisa and Fabian. So you just saw Kim demo some interesting AI features with documents. And I think that's a great segue for this next session, which is on document